Hey guys, this is Mr. Kramer reporting in for Tomahawk 4th grade.
Hi, darlings. This is Miss Kramer.
Alright, so this math packet help is just for days 5 through 10 and the dates of April 6th to the 10th.
Don't forget on day 9, which is April 9th, to take a picture on a phone of your activities you've done and send those in through Dojo or email, and we will check those and get them back to you the next day.
And remember, the recommended amount of math computer work for Dreambox is 20 minutes a day.
And then the rest of this video, you can scroll through. We've labeled it very clearly, each day's activities, and we've given directions as well as some models for some of those more challenging ones.
Alright. Bye guys.
See you. The first thing is to label this number line that is 0 to 1 whole. And you're going to be using lots of equivalent fractions. You'll be using halves, thirds, fourths, sixths, eighths, and twelfths. So my suggestion would be to go through and start and fill in. Where would you put 1/2? Where would 1/3, 2/3? How about fourths, then sixths, eighths, and then fill in the twelfths where they would go.
And then for the bottom, numbers 2 through 6, you're just going to be using that number line that she just explained to answer the questions. For page 2 of day 6, we're going to just be shading in the bars based on what the word problem says so that you can compare them more accurately.
On this number line, you need to label the decimals. And I would start with labeling my whole numbers first. You can see this goes from 0 to 3. So that means 1 and 2 are inside that number line. And then things that are less than 1 would be between 0 and 1, right? And then things that are greater than 1 would be between 1 and 2. Greater than 2 would be between 2 and 3.
For number 4, we're going to show you an example. So if we were just saying that was that amount, that would be 20 hundredths or 2 tenths. So when you answer the questions, how many tenths are shaded on the mat, you would say 2, or you'd just say 2. And then for letter B, you'd say how many hundredths, 20. Because you're just looking at those single cubes or units. Letter C says write 2 fraction names for the shaded amount. So then you could say 2 tenths or 20 hundredths. D says write 2 decimal names for the shaded amount. Similarly, you could say 2 tenths or 20 hundredths.
All right. With adding and subtracting mixed numbers, one good thing is that they all have common denominators, so that will be very helpful for you. Here's an example of how you would add with common denominators, and you'll see just about all of these, if not all, are regrouping. So if I had 1 and 3/4 plus 1 and 2/4, I can take my fractions, 3/4 plus 2/4. And when I add fractions, I know I only add across the top. So that would be 5, and I leave my denominator the same, fourths. And then I look and I say, you know what, that's improper. So how many fourths make 1 whole? Oh yeah, 4 fourths make 1 whole. So let me take out 4 of my fourths. And that leaves me with how many left over? 1 fourth left over. How many times did I take out 1 whole or 4 fourths? How many times did I do it? 1 time. So I made 1 whole. And then go back. Don't forget you had your wholes. So I have 1, 2, 3 wholes and 1 fourth left over. An example for subtraction could be 3 and 3/6 minus 1 and 5/6. Okay, if I pull my fractions down, 3/6 minus 5/6, I see I can't do it because I can't do 3 minus 5. That means I'll need to go back to my original number and I'll need to regroup. I'll need to take a whole out of this 3. So if I take a whole out, that only leaves 2 wholes. And then I'm doing sixths, so that would be 6 sixths. So really, I'd have 2 and 6 sixths, and then the 3 sixths. So now I can put these together, right? If I was regrouping, that's how you would do it. And my new one would be 9 sixths minus 5 sixths. So I'm going to rewrite over here. It's getting a little messy. 9 sixths minus 5 sixths. And that one's easy to see. 9 minus 5 is 4. 4 sixths. And then I'll go back to my whole numbers. Over here I had a 2. Over here I had a 1. And it's subtraction again. So 2 minus 1 is 1. And I can slide it right there. 1 and 4 sixths. And if you wanted to simplify that, we would call it 1 and 2/3.
For day 8, we have some word problems based on Gloria's Garden, where you're basically just taking fractions and repeating addition with them. So you have 1 and 2 here to read carefully, and then the next page for day 8 is very similar. And for the second page, you're just going to kind of show your thinking with sketches, numbers, words.
All right, this one has line graphs. So you just read the problem carefully and draw a line to match which graph it describes. The second page on day 9 is a line plot, which is different than a line graph. A line plot would be of course, everything labeled, but you would put your X's for each time something happened, kind of like that.
Yeah, and you want to label them from least to greatest if you're going from left to right.
And of course, you have a bar here too.
For day 10, we have this night and day calendar that there's a pattern happening with it, and you basically just have to tell the times and figure out the pattern. And while you're doing that, you're just answering these questions.
Right. The last page for these 2 weeks, you'll need to read the clocks and write the time, and then use these to figure out the elapsed time.
All right, number 3, we're going to model for you since Mrs. Kramer and I taught it both ways, and it might be a little rusty. So I'm going to show you how I taught my students. How long is it between the start of morning recess and math time? So morning recess begins at 10 o'clock. And then math time starts at 1:40. So then I taught with the mountains, hills, and bumps. So then mountains would be by hour. So that'd be 11, 12, 1. And we can't get any closer without going over. So that'd be 1. And we could often go by hills, which would be by tens. 110, 120, 130, 140. All right, and then you count up your hours. You count up your minutes by tens. And that leaves you with 3 hours and 40 minutes.
And then if you wanted to write it up and down like a regular subtraction problem for number 3, we'd take our end time for math, let's see, which would be 1:40, and our beginning time, which was when recess was 10 o'clock, and subtract. 2 minus 0 is 0, 4 minus 0 is 4. Don't forget, this is the line between minutes and hours. Okay, so you can't do 1 minus 10, but since this is a clock and the clock constantly repeats, you could convert this to military time. I know a lot of my students like doing that, so that would be 13:40. Or you could look at the clock and say, okay, I started at 10, 11, 12, 1. That was 3 hours.
So the next page, they give you a bus schedule, and there's a pattern going on with this bus schedule on the pickup times. You just have to be very careful with figuring out that pattern first before you go on to the second part, number 7. And then that's going to lead you to answering A and B.